your 2 bedroom in a Borivali will cost lesser than a 2 bedroom in a Thane. Thane, you've got more open land, better connectivity, better roads, better everything. So in your rate per square footage, Thane will definitely overtake Mumbai. Own up a mistake that you made, boss.
But are there builders who say sorry? I've not heard too many cases. Actually, to be honest, I haven't heard a single case.
A 30 crore rupee a year organization, right? 17 years down the line, we've grown from doing 1100 crore rupee turnover, right? 1200 crore rupee turnover. You can only achieve that if you put systems and processes. I'm lucky to have a lot of good friends within the fraternity.
But is this true friendship, or it's like those Bollywood actresses' ka friendship with flying kisses in public, but once the public glare is out, each one is trying to stab the other?
There are also developers that give us a bad name, or builders as a fraternity developers as a bad name. कभी-कभी लगता है अपन ही भगवान है, right? It's that which screws you.
In today's episode of The Real Deal, I'll be talking to a developer who operates in the Mumbai, Thane and Kalyan market. His name is Shyamal Mody and he represents the Raunak Group. He's probably the most candid developer of the industry. In a way, the Ashtir Grover of real estate. Welcome to the show, Shyamal. Was my introduction correct? Ashtir Grover?
Add his valuation to it and you're spot on.
Let's just start from your background. Why did a person like you get into a space that's as dusty as Mumbai real estate?
You want the flowery answer or the simplest answer? Simplest answer first, because I can market myself well with the flowery answer. But the honest to God fact, I'm a second generation real estate developer. Father started it in the 80s. Natural progression, right? Like how most of the real estate brands today are. My father was a contractor, got his first small piece of land, became a developer. I grew up in a typical Gujarati family. And I always was a firm believer saying means, and I've never had shame in also admitting that. It's that Banya mentality. My father is a Banya wala, I'll obviously sit on that. And my father is a restaurateur, I'll do that. There was a phase in between where I wanted to get into finance, mergers, acquisitions. But in my head, it was always you go out, you study abroad, learn those things, come back and apply it into your father's business, because he's, let's say, spent what? The best part of his life or the last 45 years being in this field. And if both are, me and my brother, I have an older brother, if we decide, don't want to do it, means he's built the foundation, he's on the first floor, it's easier to then get the second floor onwards rather than rebuild the whole. Why reinvent the wheel, right? As I say.
When did you join? Which year? And that time, how old were you?
So I joined at 21. It's very funny because I had plans of joining, how do you say, one of these top finance guys, because I wanted to get into mergers, acquisitions, finance, do my MBA in finance, go abroad, study, have fun, party, come back. But the interview went a bit off, right? I went to the final round of interview, something happened, and my to-be boss said a statement about something, and this didn't somehow sit well, right?
What was the statement?
Well, the statement was very clear. He basically said that mergers and acquisitions or finance is not an easy field. If you're cut out for it, you decide today, because you need to slog your ass for 18 hours a day. Sleep is not your best friend, work is, right? And well, for a 21-year-old, when you just graduate out of college, you have a perception of what corporate world will be, right? Like, came back home, was talking to my father, and he's like, "ठीक है, क्या decide किया that this is the package, this is this, but means so many hours, this much." He said, "ठीक है ना? What if I match this? Why don't you come work for me?" I said, "ठीक है, I'll figure it out." That was a Saturday, if I was not mistaken, right? Because Friday was the interview. I spoke to him on a Saturday. He said, "ठीक है, sleep over it." Sunday morning, I get kicked out of my bed. I said, "What happened?" He said, "Go. You said no, you're working for me now. Ye le chabi. Go to Thane." Huh? And ironically, it was the 1st of May, right? The whole world is not working. But here I am, my joining date, 1st of May, Maharashtra Day, and I drive to the city of Thane, which I've never been to before in my life. So that was funny.
So tell me, when you went over there to Thane, what project had your dad decided that Shyamal was going to work there? Which project was it?
The project back in the day when we went there, what we were building was Lakshmi Narayan Residency, right? It's on Pokhran Road number 1. It's the longest residential building in the city or the country also, right? By the Limca Book of Records. It's about 630 feet from point A to point B.
So this building that you mentioned, Lakshmi Narayan Residency, that's the one that is there under the Raunak Group, which is one of the companies you
are a partner.
My
family is a partner of.
You're a partner of. Okay. And you mentioned that's there in the Limca Book of Records.
Yes. The longest residential building in India.
So just when you were constructing it, did you know that you were going to break a record or much later it happened?
No. One random day we were discussing, figuring out, and when you didn't have the internet at the speed that you have today, right? Like you didn't have Google at the speed that you have today. So it was more of word of mouth and trying to realize what it was, right? And that's when we realized that we've actually built 30 foot longer in length than the other building which was built.
So how are you selling, how are you luring people to come from Mumbai into a place like Thane?
So when I joined, Raunak was a growing firm, right? Like we just started developing the large land parcels that we had got or the factories that we had got. So I was still out of that whole, let's get out of this border of Thane and go and sell in Mumbai. We had more than enough clientele within Thane. The old buildings of, let's say, Kapurbawdi or Lewiswadi or any of those places who wanted to upgrade their lifestyle to a Pokhran Road number 2. Because by the time I joined, Pokhran Road was still prime, right? It was greener than all of Thane was, or still is greener than what all of Thane is. You've got Yeur Hills up front, you've got, the Uppan Lake. It's beautiful. But cut to about, I don't know, I think even 15 years before I joined, when we took our first project on Pokhran Road, that time it was a challenge to even get the Thane guys to move there. Let alone a Mumbai guy or a Bombay guy moving there. People from old Thane or Thane city did not consider Pokhran Road to be Thane city. Like Thane city ended at Lewiswadi, and anything beyond that was not Thane. It was just a highway connecting you to Kalyan, Dombivli, Shapur, wherever you want to go, right? So Thane has now evolved, right? Like now Godbandar is a part of Thane. Like if you meet a local Thanekar, he will say Godbandar, don't say Thane. If you ask him where do you say, and you say Thane. कहाँ पे गोडबंदर नहीं गोडबंदर सांगा तुम्ही थाना नको थाना still ends at Majivada. Everything beyond Majivada is Godbandar. It is not a, so it's still there, right? And but we consider it a part of Thane or Thane extension or however you want to call it.
Thane next, Thane extension.
No, we don't do that, but yeah.
But
sort of. That's how it goes. That's how it progresses.
So Pokhran Road is right now considered like almost like the Malabar Hill of
It is. It is.
Getting customers over there was relatively easier because of that from Mumbai?
No. I still remember my father telling me how, or Rajan uncle telling me also how they had to convince people, right? Saying this is the next best spot. It's cheaper than where you're staying today, and it's far better air because you've got the Yeur and the greens around it. And people just look at me and say, "City mein nahi hai. Tum city mein nahi bana rahe kya?" And now, cut to 20 years down the line, Pokhran is the heart of Thane. So we've seen the journey of Pokhran what from when I joined, I was selling at about 2,200 rupees a square foot, right? To now it being 25,000 rupees a square foot. So in my experience of 16 years in Thane, the price of the same apartment has gone from 2,200 to about 22,000. So
I remember Niranjan Hirandani once told me that he sold his one building in Powai, Lake Castle, at 850 rupees a foot, and it took 2 years to sell it. And today it's at 35,000. Yes. He says, I wish I just held on to 5 apartments over there. I would have made more money in those 5 apartments than the entire building. Do actually you guys have that sort of sometimes nostalgia ki bahut jaldi bech diya maine?
We do, but well, that's not in our DNA, right? I'll be honest, we are not landlords, we are developers. Our job is very clear, or we know what we want to do is you buy the land, you get those approvals, you build and you sell. You do feel that if you were to hold on to certain inventories, maybe 2, 3, 5 years down the line, because of some metro or some infrastructure development, the prices will shoot up. But we don't want to be in that category of just building 5, 10, 15, 20 developments, right? We want to be a developer. We want to move to the next destination or the next spot where the growth is going to happen. Like how I said, right? When I joined, we had Pokhran Road, but we'd already started acquiring land on Godbandar Road. When Pokhran Road reached a good stage, we started selling Godbandha Road, right? While we were selling Godbandha Road, we got an opportunity in Kalyan.
How did you get customers to Kalyan? Pokhran Road, you said you had to sell it to people from Mumbai to come to Thane. You sold the lifestyle, the affordability. Kalyan goes one step further.
Yeah, that was tough. That was tough.
How tough?
That was really tough because we were not aggregators of land, right? Let's remember that. We bought that piece of land at market rate and we were to launch it in a quarter. We didn't want to buy that land and hold on for a couple of years, then let it appreciate naturally, like usually how the business used to work back in the day. I still remember we doing our Bhumi Pujan. Neighbors, you invite the fellow developers, जो आजू बाजू में बना रहे हैं, आओ भूमि पूजन हो रहा है. And a developer walked in and said, क्या रेट पे सोच रहा है? We done our market survey, market research. I mean, back in the day, it wasn't you click and you get, right? Like how you get today. The agreement value of the last 20 transactions, you don't get that. You ask people around, कितने बिकेगा, क्या बिकेगा? We knew what price we had to launch at because we'd bought the line, but still, just to give us some confidence, we said, पूछ लेते हैं. So, okay, we decided we'll launch at about 2,700 rupees a square foot. Right? This fellow developer walks in, we're chit chatting. किधर है? अरे मेरा बाजू में बन रहा है. देखा ये बहुत how you does that? तो ये ले कितने में बेच रहा है? मतलब सोच रहे हैं 2,750 will launch, right? Plus other charges, so roughly about 3,000 rupees. ये क्या बात कर रहा है? मतलब क्यों ज्यादा है कम है? बोलते हैं तेरे को मालूम है मैं कितने में बेच रहा हूँ? मतलब नहीं सर आपका I asked a couple of brokers. They said चल भाई 2,200-2,500 रुपए तक तुम लॉन्च कर सकते हो, बट our costing is our costing because we were building a 15-story tower, right? Not the 7-story conventional one. Like मैं 1,200 रुपए में बेचता है. And that's when I'm like, all right, this is going to be fun, interesting, and challenging. But as luck would have it, because we were building in that magnitude, right? Like 11 buildings, swimming pool, clubhouse, gymnasium, a garden, party lawn, children's play area. We sold 5 buildings of the 11 in the first 30 days. Like they flew off the shelf.
What does that tell you about the real estate market? That pricing, people observe pricing, but they also observe value. Is that learning?
Always, right? Because our track record in Thane, right? People do their due diligence, right? The channel partners do their due diligence. They know who's going to deliver, who's going to stand up to the promise, not just to them, right? Also to their customer, because that's a repeat business for them as well. What we build, how we build, right? All of that combined together with a pricing, right? Pricing is debatable because what's fair for you might not be fair for me, right? Like because you buy a land today and you're not waiting for it to appreciate, I cannot launch at your price because you bought it earlier, right? So your mathematics is completely different from my mathematics, and land cost is 70% of our overall cost, right? Your approvals, construction is the same almost for everybody, right?
तो श्यामल क्या है सबसे बड़ी मुश्किल सेल्स में? एक सेल्स पर्सन बनने में सबसे बड़ी चैलेंज क्या है?
सेल्स ही मुश्किल है यार, बट मींस रियल एस्टेट सेल बिकम्स टफर और मुश्किल क्यों हो जाता है, राइट? बिकॉज हर एक कस्टमर को ये लगता है कि बिल्डर तो कभी कुछ बुराई करेगा नहीं ना अपने प्रोडक्ट की. तुम तो यही बोलोगे सर हम बेस्ट बिल्डिंग बना रहे हैं, बेस्ट टाइल देंगे, बेस्ट नल देंगे, बेस्ट सब कुछ देंगे. कस्टमर बोलते हैं यार सच बोलना तू क्या देगा, राइट? एंड इट्स दैट ग्रे लाइन और अ थिन लाइन वेयर आपको उनको कन्विंस करना है कि सर हम ये चिपकाने के लिए आपको सेल्स पिच नहीं दे रहे, हम जेन्युइनली चाहते हैं कि या हम जेन्युइनली बता रहे हैं कि दीज आर द स्मॉलर थिंग जो हमारे प्रोडक्ट में डिफरेंट है वर्सेस अनदर प्रोडक्ट, राइट? पर बिकॉज वो 3-4 जगह घूम के आता है क्योंकि सब यही बोलते हैं यार हमारा बिल्डिंग सबसे बेस्ट है, तुम ऐसा क्या अलग बना रहे हो बिल्डिंग में? तो क्या ऐसा अलग इज द बिगेस्ट प्रॉब्लम दैट यू कैन हैव इन सेल्स, राइट? बिकॉज हाउ डू यू डिफाइन डिफरेंट? मींस मैं भी फूल दे रहा हूं, आप भी फूल दे रहे हो, मैं भी गार्डन दे रहा हूं, आप भी गार्डन दे रहे हो. सो वो जो प्राइसिंग है ना, दैट इज द डेफिनेशन. दैट इज व्हाई पूरा रियल एस्टेट प्राइसिंग पे चलता है. लाइक इवन द मोस्ट सीजन्ड बायर विल कम टू से ये सब छोड़ तू भाव बोल, राइट? लाइक इतनी मेहनत से आप ब्रोशर बनाते हो, एमिनिटीज बनाते हो, राइट? आप एनविजन करते हो एक प्रोडक्ट को और फिर एंड में आके वो पूरा ब्रोशर लास्ट पेज पे लेके आता है, प्लान देखता है, तो भाव बोलो.
Tell me, for selling at Kalyan, did you think of a strategy that many of your peers follow of getting in brand ambassadors, film stars?
Nah, we've never.
इसका फायदा है, you think, brand ambassadors hire करने का?
कहीं पे आपको ज्यादा करना है, ज्यादा तेज भागना है, so then you need those boosters. It's like a booster. So we have.
But do you think brand ambassadors help in? So is their role limited to awareness, or do you think they actually help in sales as well?
I think it's only awareness. Which one of those brand ambassadors connects with the ethos of Vishal is important. Not just by Instagram पे देख ले कितने फॉलोइंग्स है, इतने इंप्रेशन मिल जाएंगे, कोई ना कोई आ जाए, वो आई थिंक इट्स अ ट्रेंड एंड आई थिंक इट विल फेड आउट.
So you think this trend that we are seeing currently, like right now, whenever I go to Instagram, I see only people show houses, houses, houses. Okay. That's also the type of content I generally see. So I
Yeah.
get those leads from Instagram. But do you think that trend that we're seeing of an overdose of people selling houses, that will probably reverse because it will not have that much of an impact as people are thinking it's having?
How do you put it? I think it will stay for at least a year more, and then you start seeing it dwindling down, right? It's like any influencer marketing. Now, because I think post-COVID, real estate has become that beast, or we are on that bull run, right? Earlier it was the cosmetic industry, before that was the clothes industry. So you had these influencers, a dime a dozen. Some of them survived, like the niche who created good content survived. Others dwindle down. But in real estate, you just don't have to create content. You need to know about the product, right? The location, the advantages, disadvantages of buying in that location, because it's more informative, right? आपको lead आ गई. What do you tell him? सर ये 4 बेडरूम अच्छा है, या ये कल्याण का नया प्रोजेक्ट आया है रौनक ग्रुप का, 35 लाख में मिल रहा है. द फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन इज गोना आस्क यू, 35 क्यों, उधर तो 32 में भी मिल रहा है. If you cannot tackle that, you can get 1 million views, boss. Right? What are you going to do with that? Then you will start dwindling down, right? So I think knowledge of real estate sales or the market or those micro markets will play a key important role. But we are on steroids, boss. Real estate is currently on steroids. Uh, it will still be there. Somebody in between, I was talking to somebody and they said, is this that pre 2008 era, right? Where every day I've had some people tell me, and I've seen that happen when I joined, the cost sheet would change, right? आज 200 रुपया बढ़ा देते हैं. Have we reached that stage yet, or have we surpassed that stage? Are we over the hill? I think we are not. We will be, but not yet. It's going to correct. It will correct.
You said you used the word steroids. What's driving this sort of euphoria in a place like Mumbai?
But I think it's the whole Make in India movement. It's the way our government has shaped up. I will put my hand up and say I've been the happiest in these last 7-8 years. Why? I think the infrastructure development has pushed the envelope, right? We've heard about the metro Aega. It's like, this Sunny Deol, Tariq pe Tariq, Tariq pe Tariq, Tariq pe Tariq. As builders, we become thick-skinned about it, right? Because we सारे तो development बोला था, अगर politician आगे भी जा सकता है तो हम क्या है, right? But now you can see that work happening. You can see the metro in full swing. You can see the coastal road in full swing, right?
Let's just take each market individually. Thane, you called it first the cousin sister of Mumbai.
Yeah.
Will it remain the cousin sister of Mumbai, or it can actually become a brother?
It's already become. I think it's become the big brother of Mumbai. It has.
Do you think we'll see a world where prices of Thane in Thane could overtake that of Mumbai?
You will again say I'm biased to Thane, but I definitely think Thane will overtake the prices of Mumbai. Right? Certain pockets, North Mumbai, definitely Thane will reach a level where your 2 bedroom in a Borivali will cost lesser than a 2 bedroom in a Thane. The developments are different, right? Thane got more open land, better connectivity, better roads, better everything. So in your rate per square footage, Thane will definitely overtake Mumbai. There will be a phase. So honestly, having said that, you still have that old school nostalgia of Mumbai, right? South Bombay, certain pockets, Kolaba, Marine Drive, Tinbatti, right? Kharbanda, Santa Cruz, which is for the newer guys who came in Juhu, right? Old Rich was South Bombay, then the newer guys moved to Kharbanda, Santa Cruz, Worli. The ceiling came and वो change हो गया. So एक definitive point आया था, right? Where the prices of Worli were the same as the prices of Bandra, now still are, right? So you are getting to that Mumbai MMR being one, where you see an equal price across the floor, but certain pockets will command a premium. Like a Malabar Hill commands 1,50,000 rupees for a new development, well planned, ventilated, amenities. बाजू वाली बिल्डिंग 55,000 में नहीं बिकती है, रीसेल करना तो 55,000 में तकलीफ आता है, बिकॉज ओल्ड डिलेपिडेटेड स्ट्रक्चर किसी को नहीं चाहिए, राइट? Hence I'm saying Thane will overtake Mumbai.
So has location stopped mattering? If you're saying that you give the example Malabar Hill, one project 1,50,000, the one next door 55,000 की fight है.
Totally.
So location does not matter.
100%. My prime example that I gave you of Raunak City, right? When we launched, we were here. The neighboring plot was here. There were two other buildings next to us. Same location. It is what you build. We built a lifestyle community, and I was able to sell back in the day at a higher premium than what this guy was already building.
You mentioned the part that project will matter more than location. Does that mean we're going to see a rise in the quality of developers? Because developers will matter more than location and even approvals like it was once upon a time.
Definitely, honestly, right? Because how do you put it? Let's say Kharband and Sandy Cruz earlier was redevelopment only, still is redevelopment only. Earlier redevelopment happened from bungalows to building, now from buildings to high rises, right? Like from G+1 to Satmala, Satmale ka 15 mala ban raha hai. The new phase that is starting out in Kharband and Sandy Cruz, right, or Juhu for that matter, is amalgamation of plots. Why do you amalgamate plots? Is because how do you add more value to it? That's what I said, right? Like you get 3 plots together, 700 meter ke, it automatically becomes 2,100 square meters. Now 2100 मीटर का प्लॉट खारबांडा सैंडलूज में नहीं होता है, नहीं है, होता तो बहुत दूर की बात है ही नहीं. सो दैट लोकल कैचमेंट एरिया ऑफ योर बिटवीन खार टू वर्ली, राइट, और जुहू टू वर्ली, देन स्टार्ट थिंकिंग यार कि मैं ये 15 वाले की बिल्डिंग में रह के कर क्या रहा हूँ, मेरे को उसमें रहना है, मेरा लाइफस्टाइल उसमें है, मैं 2 गली दूर जाना चाहता हूँ, ठीक है, बट एटलीस्ट आई एम इन माई comfort zone and I'm willing to pay that price.
Tell me, how does a player like you think about downturns? Real estate works on cycles, although some of the narrative I hear makes me believe that the people actually believe that it's always one way. But disregarding that, it works on cycles. Yeah. When it's a downturn, what do you do?
Double down. I told you that we are not landlords, we are developers. We believe in taking up something, getting it approved, start the construction, sell, get out. If I keep on waiting for that price, that this will achieve 1 lakh rupees, 5 years down the line, coastal road ban jayega, metro ban jayega, then I can do 2 developments. I should be happy with that. I should hold on to that inventory, sell it at that price, then move to something else. It's a very simple concept, net present value. Somehow we developers forget that. We think we have to juice out every last drop from that piece of land. No, I don't think we should do that. I don't think I should do that. I'll put it to myself personally. As a group, we don't believe in doing that. We are very clear, boss. You build 7, 8, 10 projects over, let's say, 12 years horizon. You will see an upswing and a downswing, but it will average out. But if I go on and bet on 32 black, the odds of me losing are much higher than me betting on a black or a red in roulette, right? हम वो रशियन रूले नहीं खेलना है, हमें सेफ खेलना है. We don't want to bet all our life savings or everything that we do on one number or one color. We want to average it out. We don't want to over leverage. जेब में जितना है उतना ही खेलना है.
What's been the biggest mistake you think your organization you have done since the time you joined the business?
Not in Mumbai, but as an organization, I think a couple of projects we fell in love with, and it's good to fall in love with your project and have that passion to build it, but we envisioned ourselves living there. That's fine for 2 apartments or 3 apartments that you want to own, not the 40. So certain blunders were made, obviously, but you learn from them. Luckily, we didn't borrow money on those projects. We built it out of our own money. We didn't sell inventory till we got the OC. So we were fine, right? It was our profits that got reinvested. If I were to look back on time, which we do at times when you buy the next plot, is boss, let's not fall in love with it. Let's take that passion to where it is And because eventually you have to sell it off, right? The other guy needs to see the value. Let's not do 20 things we cannot read, because whatever said and done.
This is which project are you talking about here?
So Virat's Tower was the high-end luxury building that we built. It's turned out fantastic, but when people wanted to buy, we didn't want to sell, right? And that was the only time in our history as an organization where people came and they said, "नहीं बेचना." And from that day, we learned, and then we said, "यार आपको चाहिए ये हमारा pricing हम लेंगे." You know what I mean? Um, that's what made us into a sales organization. We were growing, boss. I have seen Raunak Group when I joined in. We were what? A 30 crore rupee a year organization, right? 17 years down the line, we've grown from doing 1100 crore rupee turnover, right? 1200 crore rupee turnover. Um, you can only achieve that if you put systems and processes. We are a family run business, but now we are getting to a stage where you need to take a step back if you want the organization to grow or the company to grow or do bigger, better work. You need to take a step back, have an overview, have a team that you can trust, and who you know when the job is dedicated, they will reach there. Means
So 1200 crore turnover. Does that mean I'll see you get listed soon? Real estate has become sort of the flavor among the stock market guys.
That's why I said we're an old school family run business. We are very happy with the way we are. Listing is not something that has ever crossed our.
Why not? What's the downside of getting listed?
You're going to get me into trouble here. I believe, and it's my firm belief, that to preempt real estate, right? कि आज मेरा 1000 crore का सेल है, अगले साल मेरा 10% growth होगा, उसके बाद मेरा 10% growth होगा, is very, very difficult. As a machinery, there are multiple moving parts. It's like as intricate as a handmade watch, right? Like a Patek Philippe, let's put it that way, right? Or a Rolex. उसके अंदर जितनी मशीनरी है ना, उस पर आपका कोई कंट्रोल नहीं है. एक टूट जाती है, you need to replace multiple things. In real estate में यार मेरा कल अप्रूवल आगा नहीं आएगा, मेरे को नहीं मालूम. तो how do I preempt कि मैं अगले साल 1200 करोड़ करने वाला हूँ? And from whatever little that I understand of the stock market, I'm not an expert. I'm an investor / trader. It's very difficult. If there is no growth year on year, quarter on quarter, your stock takes a beating. Why would I want to get into? None of us want to get into that explanation zone कि आपका approval 6 महीना late क्यों है? हम ठीक है यार. We are very content. Luckily, we've got great financiers like bankers who are supporting us. We get great rate of interest. Yes, there is still a bit of more saving, but there's a lot more pressure added to that, right? Like then means we are happy. We are really, really happy. We know the business. We have the banks. Life's good.
So basically, you won't follow the suit of the big boys that are there in the industry, like a Lodha, Oberoi, Godrej. Want a list because you want to unlock value.
I think we have reached that stage of unlocking value internally, right? We don't want to fall under the trap of हर quarter कुछ acquire करना है. There could be a year, or means there has been a couple of years we've not acquired anything because we don't see that purchase value today, right? Even though I say that prices will go up, but I don't see the value of buying that FSI or that land today. Maybe 6 months down the line. That's why I said, right? Like when you asked me, what happens to a real estate developer or old school real estate developer when the markets are tough? I said, double down. We are waiting for that. Now, just to please my shareholders or the markets, I will have to acquire something at today's market value to show कि देखो मेरा order book बढ़ रहा है. नहीं करना मेरे को. Means हमें नहीं करना है. We are very clear about it. 10 years down the line, 5 years down the line, nobody knows. Today we are very clear that we will buy at our pricing and we'll sell at our pricing. I don't want to fall under somebody else's. तुम्हें तो करना पड़ेगा दोस्त नहीं. हम ठीक है यार.
It's safe to see, given the number of projects that have been given approvals, I read about close to 3,600 buildings, projects getting redeveloped.
Yeah.
6 or 7 times that of a normal year. Are developers excited again? I've basically seen this movie play out. Developers,
you all have.
Developers get excited, they go all in, then they start sulking. because the market doesn't shape up to be the way they had thought of it.
We've all seen this play out because we're like 102 टच किया है ना, उसके नीचे बेचना ही नहीं है बॉस, मेरा प्रॉपर्टी लाख रुपए में बिका. There are some of us who do that, most of us don't. The some of us who do that, that's what we should be scared about, right? Because that is a figment of your imagination, boss. 100 rupees in your pocket today is better than 101 a year down the line, or 102. Yes, 102 is great. एक साल बाद 102 का भाव आया. फाइनेंस का बंदा हो बॉस, बनिया हो तो 18% गिनता हूँ. 102 नहीं मिला है तुझे. You also know it, I also know it, but it pleases our ego. If it pleases your ego, I don't think real estate is a business, or no business is a business. You should never do your business in ego.
So basically, in your view, right now, what percentage of builders do you think are thinking that that on the sky, मेरे को वही rate चाहिए?
Some of us are
30%, 40%, 60%. What sort of?
Not the big corporates, because I think they've understood the big game and hence they've reached where they've reached. But if you're in the growing mindset and about what 30%, yeah.
So 30% are in a way looking for that
recognition.
Recognition,
ego, right? मेरा building लाख रुपए में बिका. I don't understand that because we are never one of those, right? I would have. You look back, you sometimes joke, like how you said, right? पोखरण रोड का जमीन रख लिया रहता, कुछ बनाते ही नहीं, तो आज बहुत पैसे होते हैं. हाँ ठीक है ना, पर वो 18 साल करते क्या, खाते क्या, राइट? जीते क्या? अगर मैं वही जमीन पे ठेकेदार के वहां बैठ जाता, what would have happened? I mean, would I be here with you today? I don't know. I would be a landlord. As I said, we are not landlords. We are developers, boss. And there are a couple of them that I've learned from. I've had the advantage of talking to them one-on-one. And you understand this, right? Like, obviously, your father teaches you a lot of things. I've learned a lot from Rajan uncle. There are a couple of developers with whom we just had casual like talks, right? Like generally when you meet and you understand यार ये बराबर है mindset, right? Like पकड़ के क्या करना है, अपना थोड़ी ना. कितने घर में रहोगे यार, 2 घर, 1 घर, 3 घर, उससे ज्यादा how many houses will you stay in? You cannot, boss. You worry about your house, sell not to others. That's what you're building for. You don't see I don't know, an Ambani holding on to his inventory and saying, नहीं बेचूंगा जा. He says, please ले ले. You don't see Amazon saying, no discount. He gives you 50% discount, boss. Great Indian Amazon sale sells more in those 3, 4, 5 days than what it does in a year, right? Why? He's not crazy. It's always churning and turnover, boss. It's always churning and turnover. If you get caught in a good or a bad cycle, as long as you're churning and turnover, life is good. तुम नहीं बेचते हो ना, तो तुम बनिया नहीं हो, तो तुम बिजनेसमैन नहीं हो, तुम लैंड होल्डर हो और उससे वैल्यू अनलॉक नहीं होता है. Then you're stuck.
But if I understand you right, the vulnerable projects would be about 30% of the total.
Yeah, people who've been a bit over enthusiastic and did, let's say, 2 projects till now and gone on and acquired 4.
Shyamal, one of the big challenges in real estate, not just Mumbai but outside also, is that there's a big trust deficit between a buyer and a builder. Buyer doesn't trust the builder. Is there a way wherein this trust can be bridged? What can developers do?
The best way to deal with this would be to meet customers, solve their issues face to face. But यार एक वो कभी fear भी रहता है. For a lot of builders एक fear रहता है यार कि मिल लेंगे और ज्यादा escalate हो जाएगा तो क्या, right? But there are also developers that give us a bad name, or builders as a fraternity, developers as a bad name, because means एक वो कहीं पे means you were telling about, or we were talking about it, is that God complex, right? कि यार
what's the God complex?
हम ही सब है. That famous dialogue which recently in this Netflix show Sacred Games, right, where Guy Tonde says कभी कभी लगता है अपन ही भगवान है, right? It's that which screws you, and that comes invariably in people. You can call it an ego, I call it a God complex. It comes when you're at that up top, right? When things are going great, your stuff is selling, and you feel like यार कुछ भी करेंगे ना सब सही होगा, right? It's actually that means I've learned, and we've been told in the family. My father keeps on repeating it. He's like, boss, the biggest mistake in life that you will make is when you're on top, right? So for that you need to stay humble. you need to have your ear to the ground, understand the problems, solve it rather than running away from it. What is the worst that will happen? You will say sorry to somebody for a mistake that you made, और कोई बोलेगा अरे यार देख सॉरी बोलता है, राइट? ठीक है ना यार, मैंने गलती की तो सॉरी बोलेंगे ना, उसमें गलत क्या किया है, राइट? लाइक why should you feel ashamed to own up a mistake that you made, boss?
But are there builders who say sorry? I mean, I've not heard too many cases. Actually, to be honest, I haven't heard a single case.
No, there are, right? Like there are a lot of us who do that. That's the reason why we survive through multiple ups and downs, right? Because there are certain things which are beyond our control in life, right? Especially with the machinery that we work with, so many different things need to be plugged in when your building is made. Means a delay of 1 day of a material coming on site could delay the project by up to 20-30 days, right? But for small things, even the customer understands when it's communicated to them, right? Everybody understands. But if it's as simple as a husband and wife relationship, right? We are Tom and Jerry usually, right? In marriage, just say sorry. If you've done a mistake, sorry bol de yaar, kuch nahi bigadne wala. And there are developers who do that, and that's the reason why there are some guys who are big. They put their hand up and say, "हाँ यार, गलती हो गया. Sorry. Here's whatever from our side." And it solves the problem. That's where the trust factor comes into play. Now, God complex में आदमी मर जाता है बस. You'll survive, but it's karma. That's what I believe in. One day it's going to come back, bite you, and that jolt of lightning from up there is going to hit you hard, right? Own up, finish, move on, next.
Yep. So, okay, this number that you said, the growth, 30 crores to 1200 crore.
Yeah.
What's the distribution like? How much comes from affordable housing and how much comes from the non-affordable housing?
Now that you brought it up, this 1200 crores is what we only do from affordable housing. We have partners in certain projects in Kharband and Santa Cruz, but we don't count that as our Raunak Group turnover. This is split across 3 projects, what we have in Thane, Kalyan, and the Sion project that we do. So if you look at the ratio, it's about 50% of our contribution comes from Thane, because that's where I think we have the largest inventory currently rolling in, and the other 50 is split sort of 30-20 between Sion being 30% and about 20% be coming from Kalyan. As of today, which is earlier it was Kalyan which was contributing to about 50% because we are waiting approvals. But yeah, it's a even split across Thane and Kalyan. Let's put it that way.
The Thane project that you mentioned about is your much hyped project, the
Raunak Bliss.
Raunak Bliss, right?
Bliss.
At Ghodbunder.
Yeah.
So that actually I was a bit surprised with the pricing there. Very aggressive.
Very.
What's the thought process behind such an aggressive pricing? Right?
We have about 3,500 apartments to sell, right? We could have held on to the inventory and said, आराम से बेचते हैं, or we could have just gone aggressive and, well, why pay the bank the interest when the customer can enjoy the benefits of it? So that's all we did. हमने एक simple mathematics run किया कि ये project complete करने को कितना लगता है, कितना borrow करेंगे, उसका क्या percentage लगेगा versus थोड़ा और कम कर देते हैं as a perception. Can we pass on that benefit to our customers? And I think it was a better call of passing it on to the customers rather than, borrowing money and sitting on debt. So it was a mixed call where we said we'll sell it off, also borrow money because to bridge the gap between the customer paying you and everything else. तो सिंपल बात है यार, 100 रुपए में आज बेचूं वर्सेस 105 में कल बेचूं, पर यार 105 में से मेरे जेब में 105 नहीं आ रहा ना, क्योंकि मैं किसी को 7 रुपए ब्याज भर रहा हूँ, तो मेरे जेब में 98 रुपीज आ रहा है, उससे चाहे 99 में कस्टमर को बेचूं ना यार.
Few days back there was a pretty interesting report by Credai and CRE Matrix which spoke about sales across different markets of MMR. I tweeted also about it.
That's what I saw.
So there it gave a pretty daunting figure of 8 lakh units of unsold inventory in MMR. MMR includes Mumbai City,
Thane, Mumbai,
etc. etc. Mumbai alone is 2,08,000. Are we in that territory where now unsold inventory is potentially out of control? Has exuberance caused this dramatic rise in unsold inventory, which obviously will be tough to absorb?
It has. And people who gone beyond their means or been overly aggressive trying to prove a point are going to get screwed, which will then create an opportunity for the guys like us to acquire them nicely, cheaply, and bring the fair market value. Because means we were talking about Kharband and Santa Cruz, where you said so many projects. You're talking about Thana Kalyan and everything. Um, Kharband and Santa Cruz has a absorption cycle. Thane has an absorption cycle, right? Where you ask, थाने में aggressive pricing क्यों? थाने में एक X inventory से ज्यादा महीने में नहीं बिक सकता, right? साल में X plus or minus 5-7% depending upon क्या हो रहा है, right? If I have to get a fair share of that pie, I have to price myself aggressively, right? And I know my location is far better than other people's location. अच्छे मार्केट में ना सब बिकता है, राइट? व्हेन द मार्केट टर्न्स ना, तब बिल्डर चूजी हो जाता है कि मैं कौन सा प्रोजेक्ट लूं. आज बिकॉज मुझे मिस आउट नहीं करना है कि मुझे यार बाजू वाले ने ये ले लिया, इसने ये ले लिया, मैं भी एक प्रोजेक्ट ले ही लेता हूं, उसमें क्लाइंट रुकता है, राइट? द कस्टमर वेट्स एंड वेट्स. And now is the right time once these stats are coming out, because there's a time earlier you used to tweet about so many inventory sold, right? We used to come out with statistics, इतने माल बिक गया, इतना फ्लैट बिक गया, ये हो गया, वो हो गया. बहुत टाइम बाद एक statistics आया जहाँ पे फ्लैट ज्यादा दिख रहा है. And this is when I think we'll have a section created between the guys who will make it through to the next hurdle versus the guys who will drop down here. And it's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be the next couple of years is going to be fun. People, developers who are overstretched, जो पहले 2 प्रोजेक्ट करते थे 5 कर रहे हैं, if they are not selling, if they are not in that cycle of let's sell, let's build, let's get out quickly, things are going to get stuck.
But do you think developers have learned that lesson? That they will, even if they have 5 projects, they will know that you can't go below 3rd gear. The moment you go below 3rd gear, you're finished. Because I'll tell you one thing. The common feedback whenever I meet developers is they acknowledge that there's been a dramatic rise in supply. बहुत माल आ गया. But they always say we will adapt to it because we will not make the mistakes that earlier some of their peers made.
Simple example दूं, हाँ ना बोल के तकलीफ में आना तो अच्छा है. Simple example देता हूँ. छोटे बच्चे थे ना तब, parents would warn you, don't touch that fire, you'll get burnt. बराबर? Still, the kida in you as a kid, you would touch that fire and you would get burnt, right? Then you would swear to God and say, यार वो गर्म है, मैं हाथ ही नहीं लगाऊंगा, right? नहीं करूंगा. You grow older, you forget about it, right? Suddenly the kida comes again at times, and you touch that fire again, and then you get burnt. It is innate as an entrepreneur to take risk, right? As developers, I think we take the most amount of risk, right? So it is in us to that if you are not able to take that risk or digest that stress or pressure, you cannot be a developer, right? But you need to know the difference between head first and leg first, right? You want to jump in head first and see जो होगा देखा जाएगा, or you want to take that calculated risk and say सीधा कूदता हूँ, टूटेगा तो पैर टूटेगा, सर नहीं टूटेगा, right?
Should we watch out for the scenario that we saw at the 2012 era?
Yeah.
Irrational exuberance. Are we right now close to the zone already?
We will get there.
How far away according to you?
One sales cycle away. So you're looking at this Diwali, starting the sales cycle. By next Diwali, you will get there, because means the salesman in me will always say, अरे बारिश में तो कम ही बिकता है ना यार विशाल, तो आपको मालूम है. अब देखो ये दिवाली देखो क्या होता है, right? And we are always giving ourselves that next quarter अच्छा ही होगा, दिवाली है, क्रिसमस है, मार्च तक सब अच्छा होगा. We are one sales cycle away. If we tide over, or people who tide over will go through. People who don't or don't understand the 100 rupees, 95 rupees, 105 rupees, there's going to be trouble. But that will create a loss of wealth, and that is going to be interesting to see how that plays out in the overall scenario.
How about in terms of the perception that many buyers have, still have? For the sake of the audience, I obviously must point out that a lot of it is exaggerated. Is that builders make too much money? Why not just cut the goddamn price and sell?
Honestly, behind closed doors, you ask any builder this, he'll say, if I could, I would, right? We have a lot of overheads that run in. Again, interest cost मारता है हमें. The cost of interest is what kills us.
But then, like you said, if it's interest is the barrier, why not just sell early and remove that interest element?
The guys who do that have a god complex, saying मेरा इन्वेंट्री तो इतने में ही बिकेगा और मैं बेच के रहूंगा क्योंकि मेरे को मालूम है मैंने क्या होना है. You're right. You've created a great product. I am not denying that. Even the buyers are denying that. But today the market is telling you that this can only sell at this price, right? The guys who adapt over the last, I think from 2008 to now, the guys who've adapted, right, during these down times, are the guys who've actually grown, right? Like look at the likes of anybody today who are at the top 10 are the guys who adapted in 2008, are the guys who adapted in 2012. The guys who didn't and were up there and said, hum ye hi hai, hum hai, are the guys who literally came down to the category B, right? Means unheard of names or people who were in that 50, 100, 200, 500 crore rupees turnover are doing 2000, 3000 crore rupees turnover. And the guys who are doing 2000 came down to about 1000. Why? Because they held on to inventory. They thought that हमारा ब्रांड है तो इतने में ही बेचेगा. नहीं होता है ऐसा. We are a dynamic market. Even if you are not dynamic in it, you will perish.
You actually meet lots of developers, I'm sure.
We don't. I'll clarify it. Means I know I'll get flack for saying this, but
aren't you guys friends or then builders?
We are a lot of friends. All of us are friends, right? We compete for the same product. We compete for the same client. We compete at all levels. But eventually we are friends because it's like only a doctor can understand a doctor's pain and working hours, right? Only a developer will understand another developer's pain. Because we all go through the same ups and downs of life.
But is this true friendship or it's like those Bollywood actresses' friendship with flying kisses in public, but once the public glare is out, each one is trying to stab the other?
I'm lucky to have a lot of good friends within the fraternity. Some great mentors, some from whom they don't know that I look up to them or learn from them, but I really do look up to a couple of them. And every time they're talking, I sit down, put my head down, close my eyes, and just listen to what he's saying, right? I will say some of us do. We think
30%, 35%, 20%, based on your limited sample size that you would have encountered. Of course, this won't be representative for the full.
I know.
But yeah, from your premise, the number of people you meet, how much are we really talking?
About 30%.
About 30%. About 30% have a God complex.
We do.
Apanich Bhagwan hai.
Because और आप लग्जरी बनाते हो ना तो अनफॉर्चुनेटली आप में आ जाता है,
राइट? कि मैं फिर एक ताजमहल बना रहा हूँ.
हाँ, and it's mean there can only be one Taj Mahal. Let's put it that way, right? How much ever you try, you can never recreate another Taj Mahal, and that is what kills us. I think we fall in love with that one product that we want to make, and then trying to achieve that same love for the other product when we fail.
I mean, basically, you have to be confident, but you can't get delusional. If that's right.
Be confident, but don't be delusional. Well put. Thank you.
Because see, one way I typically segment builders regarding their arrogance is that if a buyer goes to complain, one guy is the guy who meets.
Yeah.
Which you pointed out is quite a bit.
It is, yes.
Perhaps because of the nature of my job, I don't get to know about them.
True.
Two are the guys who meet them, but make it sound that it's a big deal. I'm the builder, I'm meeting you. Third are the other extreme, which
who don't meet
and they actually go and try to bully the buyer if he goes to complain. So in your view, segment this entire audience for me in this. Out of 100, what do you think would be the numbers? 30, 40, what would be?
I would say the top 10, 12, 15 of us, right? Like in that category, either in terms of turnover, either in terms of volume that we do, micro market wise, or the whole MMR. We all have realized that we have to, right?
So that would be how much percent in your view?
As of today, they control about you're wrong there. They are actually a majority. I'll be honest, right?
Who actually meet the customer?
Yeah, means I'm not talking about the corporates. You cannot bring the corporates in here because none of the corporate guys are going to meet. Some of the corporates are reactive rather than being proactive because they are corporates. But the family-run businesses, let's say something like a Raunak Group or a Rustamji or even a Oberoi, right? Because I have a couple of friends who bought in 360. Even though they are something and even he is somebody, they said, Shyamal, that whenever we've had trouble, he's been there to solve it.
Vicky,
Himself, he sits for the deal, right? That is one thing because he wants to maintain that gentry. But for him to sit for trying to solve your problem is also another thing. Now you will tell me, "अरे वो तो 100 crore का घर ले रहा है तो वो बैठेगा ही," right? But I knew it was coming. So there are some of us who sell mass housing. We do that. I know for a fact that Baman does it. I've seen him do it in front of my eyes, not just his, but somebody else's. Where he sat them down and said, "This is not the right platform. Wait for it. We will ensure that dialogue happens."
This thing, I presume, is the Kalpataru episode that happened at the Krida exhibition, right?
All I'm saying is I've seen Baman do it, right? And it takes courage. And I trust me when I say I have some people that I look up to. He's one of them up there, right? He does know it, he doesn't know it is one thing. But when he talks, I just shut up and listen because he's seen it all, right? Like he comes from a non-real estate background to make it in real estate is a big thing. And to break it amongst the top 10 is another big thing. So I would put the skew at 50% there in category A. People who are responsive, reactive rather than proactive. 10% in the category B, and the 40 in category C.
The 40 is what category you're saying? That
don't want to meet and want to just if there's a problem,
God complex. I'm the king of the world.
That is the complex, but the actual behavior is one of the ostrich, right? Then you dig a hole, put your head in it, andhera hai, kuch nahi hone wala hai, right? But that kills you, and those are the guys who die.
So you've spoken a lot about Bandra, Khar, Santa Cruz. That's where you live.
Yeah,
that belt. I noticed from some chats that's going on in the circuit, you're doing a new initiative in that market. Is that true?
We do work in that area also, not under the Raunak brand name. We partnered with a friend. Now we ventured out on our own. It's still a nascent baby, but we have the expertise. And
this is the Elements brand whose boards I saw at Bandra Reclamation a few months back. Is that the entity?
Your sources are better than everybody else in the world, right?
No, after seeing those big billboards, it's hard to miss. So I just had to figure out who is the person behind it. So that's
that's the banner that we've named the company, Elements Realty. It's predominantly going to focus on Bombay as a market because we have our presence in Thane under the Raunak brand. So we said if we venture out on our own, it was a bold call to move and make a new brand name altogether. But we chose that route, and that's the entity that we started.
What's the plan for that? What do you plan to do with it?
The plans are big. The things that we've done in Thana or in Kalyan that we spoke about, the idea is to not replicate, but do that for the Bombay market. And when I mean Bombay market, we don't want to go shebang from Daisar to Colaba. We picked our pockets, the pockets that we know of or we are familiar with, predominantly from, let's say, Juhu Versova to Colaba, right? Colaba is stretching it, but let's say South Bombay, let's put it that way. That's the market that Elements will focus under. It's predominantly redevelopment because there are no open plots also available there. But it will range from, I don't know, a 5-6 crore rupee apartment to the 60 crore rupee thing that I was mentioning to you about, right? So
that's the wide spectrum you're going to.
That's the wide spectrum. Depending upon the location and the plot that we get.
What's going to be the philosophy there? It'll be pretty much similar to what you do. Focus on opportunity cost of capital, NPV, or because it's a different product, you'll be a lot more discerning on the pace of sales.
It's going to be a mix of both, right? We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We are very clear about it. I have personally worked in scale, means from 30 to 1200. So we worked in scale, love scale. So the idea is to get that scale model here. We have the expertise, we have our contracting team, we have our whole office set up, but we set up a new office just for Elements because we figured and realized that telling a society in Bandra that our office Thane mein aap aiye, well, it's still, if my friends don't come, I know for a fact that the society guys are not going to come. So we set up an office in Bandra.
Okay. I look forward to seeing some of those projects
soon.
On that note, Shyamal, we'll take a break on this part of the show. Up next is
there's one more.
Up next is the favorite segment of mine. It's a rapid fire. Lots of fun questions, and I'm sure you'll be able to.
Oh, I'm going to get into trouble. Okay.
The first word that comes to your mind when I say builder.
If I was not in this fraternity or if I was not a developer myself, कभी कभी लगता है अपन ही भगवान है, right? So I would go with God complex.
The best builder in India, according to you?
I think it's a tie between Oberoi and Baman Irani.
The best real estate project in India, according to you?
India Bulls Blue in terms of amenities, but 360, mind blowing.
Oberoi
360. It's fantastic.
The one quality needed for a builder to succeed in India?
Honesty and humbleness.
The one small or mid-level builder you think will become a player to watch out for this decade, outside of Elements?
There would be an easy one, but I think Suraj. Suraj is doing. Thomas Sir is doing a great job.
The first word that comes to your mind when I say Hirandani?
How do you put it, Paul? The guy is an institute.
Oberoi?
Something that I aspire to emulate, one product of his. Like something like a Goregaon, what he built, he's a landmark creator. So yeah.
Godrej? A
corporate which needs to be more flexible.
Lodha?
I think the best in the business when it comes, because dude, he's a wholesaler. He's changed the game. He's a game changer. Let's put it that way.
But he's a wholesaler.
Yeah, because Elements to a certain extent is because of what I saw him do. I never thought an affordable and a luxury can work together. This guy does everything from 20 lakhs to 150 crores. अपन तो 60 पे पहुंचे, 120 करोड़ हो गए, 300 crore, right? So,
which competitor's project do you wish you had owned?
Over a Goregaon.
What is that one thing that would be your deciding factor if you were a home buyer?
Legacy, history of what is being built, location, and all are standard questions. But if you're buying something, 10 lakhs, 100 crores, legacy.
And my final question, the one comment from your customer that you remember? Thank you.
I think that touched. The first flat that I sold, and he said thank you, and I was like, you're paying us money and you're saying thank you to us, right? Like, it's very, very, and that's when you realize that it means a lot to the person buying a house. And if you mess around with that, then God forbid, So yeah, thank you.
Okay. On that note, Shyamal, thank you for coming on, and all the best for Raunak as well as Elements.
Thank you, buddy.